For decades now, Porsche has offered the Cayenne SUV model as a more practical, more comfortable alternative for Porsche enthusiasts who could no longer fit their family or their cargo into the smaller 911 and 718 models. And it's been an incredibly successful model for them, selling very well since it was first introduced back in the early 2000s. Well, the Cayenne has been through several iterations, and now, due to high demand, Porsche has decided to offer a second model along the Cayenne called the Cayenne Coupe. Now, this model is somewhat different from the base Cayenne in that it's a little bit more stylish. It's got a little bit more of that iconic Porsche silhouette to it. But is this car still as practical as a base, larger Cayenne would be? We're covering all of that and more in today's video before finally taking it out on an extensive test drive. That's going to be at the end of the video, so definitely stick around till then. But without further ado, let's get right into it. A lot of the most obvious changes that Porsche has made to the Cayenne Coupe model are going to be out here on the exterior of the car. So I figured what better place to start than out here. It's the first thing you see when you approach the Cayenne, and it looks really, really stunning. It retains a lot of, classic Porsche styling elements that have been featured on all their models for many, many decades now, but it's also updated them in a very subtle way to appear more sleek and modern. And that really begins up here with these iconic Porsche teardrop style headlights. They're very similar to what you would find in either a new 911 or an old 911, but they come standard with LEDs. And I really love the 4-block kind of wedge-shaped design in the inside with the chrome highlights. And they're also going to do a great job of lighting up the road at night. Now, a really cool thing about the lighting on the front end of the car is that the turn signals are actually integrated here into the front grille of the car. So they're kind of hidden when you're not using them. Now, this is a really cool feature that I personally love on the Cayenne because it does a great job of enhancing the styling of the car while still retaining the practicality, which is really what the Cayenne Coupe model is all about. Now, speaking of those grills, they're also available in a few different styles. What we're looking at right now is the Cayenne Coupe S model, and this is pretty close to the base model, not exactly at the bottom rung, but it has the basic standard front fascia design, where we've got kind of the grille split into 3 separate parts. However, if you were to upgrade to the turbo model, what you would see is this body color strip on either side, that's going to go away. The grille is actually going to widen open and visually be formed into one long piece, and that's actually going to do a better and more efficient job of feeding air into the turbos in the turbo model. So not only is the design going to change, but it's also going to become more functional and practical the higher trim level you go. Another thing I love is how the beautiful rippling lines along the hood actually feed into the side of the car where things are just as sporty and stylish. It's got some body colored mirror caps right here with integrated turn signals, gloss black trim all around the windows. There are also a few different wheel styles available. The base models have 20-inch wheels, however, they can be upgraded to 21 or 22 inches depending on your preferences. The real biggest changes that have been made to the Cayenne Coupe are what we finally arrived at here in the back of the car. It's this sloping roofline. It looks very, very aggressive. It was actually designed to look similar to the 911 models and a little bit more true to that classic Porsche styling. So it's got some very smooth curves going on back in here. It's got an added spoiler on the roof right here to increase downforce. And while it might cut in just a little bit to cargo space, you'll see when we hop into the interior, it does look very nice out here on the exterior. If I just showed the rear of the car right there, you could almost mistake it for a 911, which is a really cool design element. Now, things are going to finish off in the rear of the car with that full LED light bar strip that Porsche is now featuring on all their Cayenne models. It's a very nice modern touch to the car, as well as some gloss black quad exhaust tips from which that fantastic V6 rumble is going to issue forth. Now, one last feature in the back of the car here is actually particularly interesting to me. It is actually a flush, electronically controlled deployable spoiler. So in addition to the wing we've got up here on the top of the hatch, there's also another one integrated in the trunk of the car itself. And that is actually going to pop up at speeds of 56 miles or more. And that is going to really increase the downforce on the car. But when the car is parked just like this, it retracts back into its little spot and really smooths out the design of the car. Another thing about the Cayenne Coupe that I find to be particularly interesting is that Porsche offers it with a ton of different engine options, all the way from the base 3-liter turbocharged V6 all the way up to the 4-liter twin turbocharged hybrid V8 that can go 0 to 60 in around 3.5 seconds, while also offering full electric driving and some incredible fuel economy. Now, smattered in between those two polar opposites are a variety of different, hybrid, forced induction, and V6 V8 combinations. Here in the Cayenne Coupe S model, we have a 2.9 liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, which actually offers 434 horsepower and 405 pound-feet of torque. Now, this should be good to propel the car from 0 to 60 in just 4.7 seconds. Now, for a car weighing as much as the Cayenne does, that's pretty impressive. Another great thing is that Porsche also offers the Cayenne with a standard 8-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters and all-wheel drive. So you're really getting the most out of this powertrain. And just like the exterior of the Cayenne Coupe, the interior remains relatively unchanged up in front, but there are a lot of new additions in the rear seat where we've got that sloping roofline. They've had to make some design adjustments back there to accommodate for the reduced headroom. So we're going to check out the rear seats right after we check out the front seats. So a few of the cool different features offered in this model include a lot of really cool technology. For those of you who don't know, Porsche is actually owned by the Volkswagen Automotive Group, who also owns Audi, and Audi is one of my favorite manufacturers, and they're really focusing right now on cutting edge technologies. So a lot of that technology and a lot of the learning and design elements that they found out over at the Audi brand have also been rolled over here to Porsche. And that starts off with this 12.3-inch digital infotainment system. It is a full touchscreen with complete color and high-res graphics, and allows you to access the built-in navigation system, the car's media, as well as a variety of different settings in and around the car. Now, what's really cool about this screen is that you can also connect your phone to it with the standard Apple CarPlay. So if you own an Apple or an iPhone, you can actually connect it to this screen in the car and have a lot of your most used and most important apps displayed up there on the screen. Very simple and easy to use. Now, unfortunately, Porsche does not offer Android Auto, which is the Android operating system version of Apple CarPlay. So if you have a Samsung or a phone that uses Android's operating system, you will not be able to connect your phone the same way you'd be able to if you had an iPhone. So that is a little bit disappointing that Porsche does not offer that system with their infotainment. However, you shouldn't be too let down because there are still a ton of other really cool technologies in this car and a few other screens I'd like to point out. Moving along here to the gauge cluster. Now, right off the bat, you can see the gauge cluster is laid out just the same as it always has been for Porsche. Ever since the 911 and some of their earliest cars ever made, Porsche has retained this 5-dial gauge cluster layout with the center tack right there displayed prominently, which really shows that this car, even though it is luxurious and it is a compact SUV, it's still at its heart and soul is about performance, like Porsche should be. And that's why they have the tachometer displayed right there, front and center. Easy to see when you're out tearing it up on the track or on some back roads. Now, this Cayenne Coupe right here is equipped with the Sport Chrono package. And what that does is it offers a little bit more settings to mess with when you're in here in the interior of the car. So here on the leather-wrapped 3-spoke 918 inspired steering wheel, we have another little lever coming off the side here that allows you to adjust the different drive modes in the car. So it comes with sport mode, sport plus mode, comfort modes, all sorts of things that are going to tune the way the car drives to your particular situation. Now, this is a really cool feature, but it also includes an even cooler feature that I like. This button right here in the center of the drive mode selector is actually a boost button. When you press this button, for the next 20 seconds, the car is going to offer you heightened and more sensitive throttle input. So it's going to feel like it has a lot more power. It's going to be a lot more ready to go. This is a really useful feature to use. For example, if you're out on the highway, you get stuck behind a big semi-truck, you want to pass, just press this button. The car will be ready to go when you get your chance. So that is a really cool feature offered with the Sport Chrono package. However, there are also a lot of nice, really cool standard features in this car. This whole center console area is lit up with some touchscreens. These allow you to control, again, a few more of the car settings, such as the electronic adaptive dampers that are featured on this model, as well as some of the different climate controls. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of this digital look here on the center console area. I prefer old analog style, tactile feeling buttons and knobs in my car. I feel like that's a lot easier to use, but it does offer a really nice, modern and smooth look to the interior. Now, in terms of the different materials used in this Cayenne Coupe model, it's obviously Porsche, so they're going to be offering the finest, softest leather materials all around. The seats actually offer 8-way power adjustments in the base model. However, you can upgrade to more comfortable seats in the upper trim levels that offer 18-way power adjustments, including power lumbar support. So really nice that they offer a lot of options for the seats, but even here, they are very comfortable, very spacious, a good amount of cushion, but they've actually got some pretty aggressive side bolsters here to hold you in going around those curves. And speaking of those times you're going around those curves, you're also going to be needing some grab handles. So Porsche offers a lot of those here in the Cayenne Coupe. Not only is it a very capable car on the road, it is also, semi-designed to go off-roading if you choose to do that as well. So we've got grab handles all around the car, so you and your passengers can be comfortable when the going gets tough. And finally, I'd like to point out that Porsche also offers a lot of charging options for you and your phone here in the interior of the Cayenne. So there is a 12-volt power outlet right there by the cup holders. And here underneath these center armrests, in addition to having a little storage pad, there are 2 USB charge ports where you can plug your phone in and let it charge up. But that's enough about the front seat features. Let's hop into the rear seat and see what's going on back there and some of the different changes they've made to the coupe model. And right away, you might notice that the rear seats of the Cayenne Coupe are going to be a little bit more cramped than in the normal, regular, full-size SUV Cayenne, and that's obviously because of that reduced headroom up here. With that beautiful sloping coupe hatch, it is obviously going to cut in on headroom just a bit here in the interior. And it's also going to cut in to your cargo space back there in the trunk. But starting off here with the seats, they are available as 2 different setups. Here in this model, you can see it has the 3-seating bench layout, but they also offer just 2 seats back here. They've got kind of a sportier or more bucket-shaped design to them. However, these here with the 3-bench option is a little bit more practical, as you can fit a 3rd passenger in here in a pinch, and the seats are fairly comfortable just like the front seats. Now, in terms of the amount of space you have back here, legroom is going to be relatively unchanged here at 6'2". I'm not too cramped back here. However, headroom is going to be cut in just a tiny little bit, but honestly, it's kind of unnoticeable, and that's for 2 different reasons. Porsche has made a couple technical changes back here, so you barely even notice the loss of space. The first thing they did was actually lower these seats by 1 inch. So the seats in this Cayenne Coupe are actually a little bit lower than in the normal base Cayenne. And the second thing they did was actually put some indentations up here in the roof of the car, and this is to allow for a little bit more headroom. They're really eking out every tiny bit of space they could back here so that at the end of the day, you're still going to be really comfortable. Like I said before, I'm 6'2", and I still have a really good amount of headroom. Now, you might notice it a little bit more in the trunk of this car. As I said, cargo space is going to be greatly reduced as the car's roof slopes even more at the back where the trunk is. It actually comes with 22 cubic feet of cargo space, although in the turbo models, that's actually reduced to just 21.1. And I believe that's a loss of around 4 or 5 cubic feet from the base Cayenne models. So the real spot where you're going to be losing the most space and practicality in this coupe model is going to be back there in the trunk. But like I said, it's honestly still pretty livable. But hey, that is enough jabbering on about space and unimportant features and technologies. Let's go ahead, hop into the driver's seat and feel how this Cayenne Coupe is out on the road. Okay folks, let's go for a drive in the 2020 Porsche Cayenne Coupe S. I'm really excited to drive this car. Porsche always does a fantastic job with the, all-around experience of driving the car. Even in their SUVs like this, it is still really fun to drive. Now, just here in the parking lot behind the Burt Smith Porsche dealership, the Cayenne is really smooth. It's got that nice adaptive electronic adjustable suspension system, as well as that 8-speed automatic transmission. And although it has to handle all that torque from the V6 power plant, it's still pretty smooth. The car does actually sit pretty high, and this is for several reasons. It can actually be adjusted with that adjustable adaptive electronic suspension system that is actually an optional feature. It can raise the car up to 9.6 inches of ground clearance and actually offer you around 20 inches of wading depth if you want to take this off-road and drive it into a lake, which we're not doing in this review. Another thing that I think is important to note about the Cayenne Coupe is that visibility all around the car is fantastic. Even with that sloping roofline, rear visibility is great. It's also got a nice camera system in that infotainment system, so you really get the best look all around the car. Blind spots, front of the car, rear of the car, you are always going to know what's going on when you're driving the Cayenne, which is really, really nice. And out here on the road, the car is just as smooth as it was in the parking lot. It's nearly silent except for a little bit of nice ambient rumble from that V6 engine. It's got a great audio system as well. I had the opportunity to experience that back in the parking lot. I really like the seating position as well. It is pretty high up considering we're obviously in an SUV, but you can adjust it to go down, give you a really cool feeling like you're inside and a part of the car, which is something that you should always want in a sports car. But turning on to a main road here, I think it's time to do a little acceleration maybe. What I really love about this car is that it makes a fantastic popping sound out the rear when you upshift using these glorious chrome paddle shifters that actually feel really nice in your hands. Now, it's definitely not the fastest Porsche model I've driven. That title still goes to the Taycan Turbo. However, it's definitely not bad for a luxury SUV, that's for sure. 434 horsepower is more than enough to get you up and moving with this thing. In fact, if I were to pass this person in front of me, we can bump it over to the Sport Plus mode, press the Sport Response button right here, and go for it. Very smooth, linear power band. Even though you've got those turbos that need to spool up, it still is very, very linear. It shifts well and precisely. Love everything about this. You can tell it is a very well, finely tuned car, which is really what I've come to expect from Porsche. They do this great, fantastic job with all their models. It really does have some nice power to it in the mid-range, but it really picks up in the upper RPMs. But that being said, we've got some twists and turns up here. Let's check out the handling. When I drove the Cayenne, the base Cayenne model, what I loved about that was that it actually felt more like a car than it did like an SUV. That's how finely tuned Porsche had the chassis and suspension system. Coming up on a turn here, smooth braking, turn in, very good. And if you think about it, we actually have a slightly lower center of gravity here in the coupe model as compared to the base model, because that roofline is lower back there. And that's going to offer us slightly improved handling and performance. If you're considering buying a car just like this Cayenne Coupe, definitely click on one of the videos on the screen right now. I've actually reviewed a lot of cars similar to this one that you might want to consider as well. Now, before we finish up, I'd also like to extend a huge shout out and special thank you to Bert Smith Porsche here in St. Petersburg, Florida, for providing me with this car to review today. There'll be a link to their inventory below. Thanks for watching.